problems tested by the world of black and white. To end the racism, you know we've got to fight, so we must stand for love. You've got to take a stand. You've got to take a stand for love. A stand for love. For love. You've got to take a stand. You've got to take a stand for love. A stand for love. For love. Sucking this sin off.
Hey, I'll tell you what, I'm looking out the window right now. The sun is shining. I've got my potato in my hand. And did you know potatoes are awesome raw, especially when you don't have any dirt that you got to spit out? I learned how to wash it just not too long ago. And, you know, I think there's a lot of people that are also learning how to wash their potatoes. This is some awesome stuff, isn't it, Ramon?
Hey, Tom, did you know that there's a certain zoo that cooks the potato for us? We should go there.
The what?
There's a certain zoo in Japan that cooks the potato for us.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then we can put it in cold water to cool it off.
Spoiled monkeys?
Yeah. Spoil 100 monkeys.
They must be the 1% monkeys. Oh, that was bad. That was bad. Oh, so, man, we've got a lot of things going on. There's just so much. The energy's been just absolutely amazing the last decade. I just don't know how to wrap my head all around all the things that have been going on. But it's definitely been ramping up this year, and I don't know how everybody else out there listening is, but me personally, I'm pretty sensitive to the ebb and flow of the different energies that we're experiencing here. And I'll tell you what, it has been quite a ride. So, anyways, I'm very optimistic about what's coming up. This recent big push by our big yellow or sometimes white orb in the sky.
We call that sun.
No, this recent real rash of all this stuff going on the sun has been all these flares and coronal mass ejections, and it's just like the intensity of the energy that's being put off there, and the different types of energies that our scientific community, although there may be some in those covert or those garages or somewhere that is able to detect these things and sees them in a different way than what we know about. I know that there's some stuff coming off of that globe, that guy, that girl, whatever denomination you want to associate with it. It's been putting out some amazing stuff and has really ramped up here just recently. And the only thing I can say is there's change coming. There's change coming in a form that we will be able to look and see and go, wow, this is really changing. So, anyway, there's my
speech.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, I was just gonna say quickly, we still have those little monkeys available for those of you who are interested. It's since 2010 November 17 all the way up to December 26 with Dan Kelly. You can pick that up. Also included in that will be 5 different interviews that me and Tom did over at ECETI. A lot of good video interviews there. And we also include the Book of Aquarius. So just send us an email at info@the100thmonkey if you're interested. And we're just throwing those out for $40.
Right.
Don't forget.
Another thing, our audio host site has been having a few issues here recently, and for you new subscribers, when you sign up, if you don't get an email immediately, like within a minute after hitting that send button, if you don't get an email from podbean.com, then you need to drop me a line right away so that I can get it manually input and get you your password and everything so that you have access to the second hour content. I'm working with them from my end diligently, trying to get this resolved. But if you guys understand how some of these companies works, getting some good and quick resolution to issues is not always the easiest thing to accomplish. So anyways, we're working on it, and like I said, if you don't get something right away, then drop me a line and we'll get you taken care of. So Ramon, who have we got tonight? We have somebody that is near and dear to both of our hearts.
Before that, I just want to announce several different things. Yeah, she is very near and dear.
More things?
Yeah, a lot more things. Like, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, blah, 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 blah. I finally published the book in book form.
Yeah, I guess we got to mention that, don't we?
Yeah, it might be important. You can just scroll down, and there's places where you can find it. News.
I really want people to just take a look at Ramon's book. I mean, he did an actually pretty good job on it. And, you know, for me, jabbing Ramon in the ribs all the time and harassing him all the time, you know, I got to be honest, he did a pretty good job with this book. So it's definitely worth the read, guys.
Oh, thanks.
Now, don't let that go to your head.
Well, let's move on with the show then. Someone very near and dear, and who's reading the bio?
Do we need a bio?
No, not really.
Tell me what you know about her, Ramon.
She's very sweet. She's very good at making pancakes and bacon. She sent me a picture of it once. She wrote 2 excellent books. Who
are we really? 101, Return of the Shaman.
And Who Are We 102, When Tomorrow Comes. And I'm still waiting for 103. I know she was in the back cave for a while. So let's bring her in, and enough of blibber blabbing.
Crystal Clark, how are you, my dear?
I'm good. I'm glad I have a mute button. I think I've been laughing for the last 10 minutes. You guys are so funny. You guys are great. I always love being on your show. You're so much fun.
Oh, so just because I am kind of, I guess impatient is maybe the right word here, I've got to know to start out with, where is 103?
Yeah, well, you know,
you really left a lot of people just hanging there, Crystal.
I know, I did. You know, I stopped working on it a while ago, and then I was going to go into my cave and finish it, but I've met some really wonderful people from around the world, and we get together every so often and exchange ideas, and we learn and grow a lot from each other, and I ended up working on a side project for a while. That's really neat because I think that we don't really have a true knowledge of our history, our human history. And I think I found someone who actually has it, and it's so fascinating, it's beautiful. It answers so many anomalies that we do know about, some that we don't know about. It's really, really neat. So we recorded a series of videos that we're going to release soon, and we finished that, and they're not out yet because the video part isn't done. So I'm looking forward to that, and that's been really fun. And then the other thing has been, you know, things are moving really quickly, in many respects kind of in the wrong direction. So this particular project was very near and dear to my heart because really right now I don't feel good about spending my time writing another fictional story because I feel like there's more important things that need to be done.
Well, we definitely have a lot of things on the plate right now that need to be taken care of and addressed. So we've got, I don't know, what do you see happening out there right now as far as more people jumping on board the proverbial bandwagon and banging their drums and asking people to wake up or waking up themselves?
Well, I wrote a little bit about this in the second book about, patterns and how they work in our lives. And I think that 2012 is going to be a very, very important year because I think this is the year when millions and millions and millions of people are just going to suddenly get it. And I think that's really important. Sorry, there's an airplane going over. I closed my door. And that's important because people, it's one thing, there's a couple of different things going on. You have people that have the information that don't act on it, and then you have people that would act on it if they have the information, and I think there's a little bit of an imbalance there. So I think that this year is very, very important. I think that when people say that this is the year of the whistleblower, they're absolutely right. And I think we're going to see a flood of that coming. And, a lot of the stuff that's going on, especially if you look at the elections, it's painfully obvious that they're being rigged.
Yeah.
Even for people who don't like Ron Paul, they know it's being done. And that really should bother them because even if it's not their candidate, it's so in your face that these people don't care about your vote. I mean, that should, So, really, I think 2013 may be a more important year in a sense. It may start at the end of this year. We'll see, depending on how elections go and how all that works out. But it's, I've said this before many times, I've written about it. It's not enough to just know that there are problems. Something has to be done about it. We can't just know our child is starving. We have to feed the child. You have to, there are certain things that you just can't let go. And I think that until people know what letting it go has really cost them, we won't see as much change as we need. So I think this year will be important that way.
Yeah, well, those whistleblowers, those are, I think it's a very important part of this, and I should have more faith in my fellow man in this respect, but at times I find it lacking within myself, and I have to ask the question to myself, what is it going to take for you guys to open your eyes and see what the hell is going on?
I know a lot of people feel that way. Go ahead, Ramon.
No, I was going to say, well, as long as the I hate to say this, but as long as that comfort's there, the little comforts, it's kind of hard for people to get their head out of the sand, as long as they have their TV and the warm shower. And a lot of the people who are waking up are the ones who don't have that anymore, who turn around and go, oh, crap. They're out in the cold without a shirt. So I think for some people it takes that, not to have those comfort little things. As long as they can watch TV and forget about the world's falling apart around them, they're fine.
Yeah, we know that that's true with some people. It just is. But I think what concerns me is that there are people, we have all kinds of names for them, don't we? The cabal, I'd refer to it as shadow, whatever we call these people. They really do think that they are in control, but what really concerns me is that I don't really think that they are. I don't think they really understand how much damage that they're doing, because I don't think they understand how creation functions. I don't think they understand the feedback loops. I really think that, it reminds me very much of that scene in The Matrix where the Oracle is talking about how she knew that the only way they would have a future as if they did it together. And I think it's not, so in that sense, it's really not just, our fellow man in the 99% that it is important to reach, but also those that think they're in control, because that's very much true. There are only two paths. One has a future and one doesn't. And the only way to get to a future is together. And maybe it's a naive view. That could be. Maybe they do know and they just don't care. I know that there are definitely shades of that, but I would like to think that if they really understood how the ripples are traveling and how badly they're messing things up. Because, if you ask people, is there really one thing that could unite all of humanity? Most people would say, well, it's love. But the problem is everybody has their own definition of love, don't they? Some people love money more than their children, or it's really varied. But I really think, I know it's sad, but it's true. Everybody has their own definition of what love is. But I think that if there was one thing that could unify every single person on this planet, it's the one thing that they all want, and that's to live. And not just live, but live happy. We all want a future, whether you're the 1% or the 99%. So I think that it's not just a matter of educating the 99%. So these whistleblowers, I think, will be important, and because there is kind of a mind game going on. We all know that. I mean, Alex Jones picked the perfect name for his website, InfoWars, because what we are going to see is as more and more whistleblowers come out, more and more propaganda will come out to try to counter it. So it's going to be, that's all going to really amp up this year. But I think if people can get back to a place where they understand what does it take to create and regenerate life, regardless of who they are, 1%, 99% rich or poor, the propaganda and the garbage is really going to stand out for what it is.
There was one thing you said, I can't remember if it was on our show or Mel's show, but that really stuck in my head, and that's the whole left and right brain. I'm sorry, that's the wrong way to say it, but when you were saying that they go one angle with something and then they go at a different angle, and then you're just confused and you just like, I don't care, because you're hit with it on two different sides that you don't know which way to go. So they'll tell you a little bit of truth on one side, and then they'll tell you a little bit of truth on the other side, and then you're just lost. You remember that?
Yes, they abuse that constantly. They turn your own mind in on itself, and I see it all the time. I'm sure you guys do. They'll put out an article through some kind of social media saying, oh, the sun is going to go crazy and there will be a CME, and then 2 days later they'll put out an article that says we're facing an ice age. So it's really that kind of thing, and exploiting the left brain and the right brain. Here in the West, we are representative of the left brain. We are taught to write with our right hand, and we write from left to right, and we're very science-oriented. A lot of the new technology, especially in the harmful sense, unfortunately, comes from our side of the planet. On the other side of the planet, they're much more spiritual, regardless of what you think of their religion. They're very spiritual people in their own way, and they often use their left hand and will write from right to left, which is the other side of the hemisphere. And that, you see, they're constantly capitalizing on that war within self, and because it does ripple out in a very fractal way. If you blow that up to the entire planet, what do we see? We see a planet that has been cut into two hemispheres. We have the left, which is the West, and we have the East, which is the right, and they're at war with each other the same way the individual has taught to be with himself. So a lot of times I'll say, well, one of the best ways that you can make a difference is you really have to work on self first. Because if self is confused and scarred and incomplete, then the contributions are outwardly, and then, of course, that ripples on. So it is important. It's not something that's just, I say topically because it sounds good. It really is very, very important. But there are other things that we need to do too. So I mean, you can't just stop there. You can't just say, well, I meditate every day and I'm calmer, so I've done my part. There's an awful lot of work to be done. There really is.
There's you just remind me of that song. I got work to do.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? If people knew the color match, the left brain is usually red, and the right brain is blue, and you see that everywhere, don't you? I mean, for a long time, Democrats were depicted with bluer colors, and Republicans were depicted with the right hemisphere with the blue colors. You see, it's constantly the false choice and it's a false choice because they're saying you need to pick one or the other. But the proper choice is they both matter. They need to work together.
Through all the research I've done through the years, I've seen so many different templates out there of people who have done the serious digging and the work and all the inner work to come up with a good template for finding balance within self and being able to affect society and their lives and the lives of those around them through that work that you do to self. Now, you can't count how many different templates are out there for creating a better future for mankind, and they're all right. They're all good stuff. The problem I am seeing is getting this information from all this subculture. I'm calling it a subculture because we're definitely not mainstream. From this subculture into mainstream, where all of humanity has, I don't know. I guess it's the big media wall that we always continually run up against, where we don't have the avenues open to us to be able to get this information out to the masses in any form or fashion that makes sense.
Well, I was gonna say, I would say that's kind of a good thing, Tom, only because then shows like ours wouldn't exist, and I find more and more people, even if they're not into what we're into, they know that the mass media is full of it, so they go to different channels to find. Not everybody, but more and more people I find are doing that, and more people say, yeah, don't believe what the media is telling you. So I would say the average person knows that the big media always puts up a lot of false things. It's been too many times that they've been shown to be lying.
Yeah, but then you stop and talk to the guy, guy on the street, and ask him what he thinks about we should do about the stuff going on over in the Middle East, about Iran and Israel, and I'd say 9 times out of 10, the reaction I get out of people is we ought to just go in and bomb them. We ought to just go in and take all the oil. I mean, that's the attitude of the people. The masses on the street are they're under that hypnosis, that control. They don't see through it. And, the people we're exposed to are in this subculture or becoming part of the subculture or on the fringes, and they're becoming aware or semi-aware, but that we're still such a small minority, though we're growing, but where's that critical mass, that we've been waiting for, to the tipping point? Is that what's coming this year?
I hope so. I tend to agree with you in that way, Tom, because I've seen it so much recently. People repeat what comes out of the TV. They don't think about it, they just repeat it.
Right.
And a really good example of that is my husband has friends who are Republicans, and whenever he brings up Ron Paul, their line is, "Oh, Ron Paul and his loony foreign policy." And then he goes to his family one of his family members' homes, and there's something about Ron Paul on the television, and this man says the exact same thing. Oh, Ron Paul and his loony foreign policy. Now, if you ask either of these two people, tell me what's loony about it, they can't. They're repeating what the TV taught them. They don't think about it. But I think at the same time what's going to happen this year is, if you really look at it, and considering it's their rules, and they still can't win, they're cheating. So that tells me that people are waking up because they are working so hard to cheat Ron Paul out of a victory. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen the pictures of the people that show up at Ron Paul's rallies. I mean, he's filling small stadiums.
Mm-hmm.
They won't show it because they don't want it to spread, and they don't, you see, they don't want us to bring more people into the subculture. And the harder they try to prevent that, the more obvious it's going to be that there's a problem for people that are outside of that culture, I think. I mean, I can't imagine that there are too many people watching what these people have done to the elections that really don't get it. The problem is people have to get past the selfish part of themselves, which is, why should I care? I don't want to vote for Ron Paul. Well, it's not about Ron Paul. You know, it's not about, so many people can't see past their own wants.
Right.
In the now. Well, I want somebody else to win, so I'm going to let them. Well, if you let them this time, who's going to come to your aid when it's your guy and you're mad? Then you'll be upset, you know. We don't put ourselves in the shoes of other people quite often. I think that has a lot to do with it. So it's interesting what you said. Where is that threshold? Well, I think there's a difference between how many people know and how many people act on it.
Mm.
And I think that's what's going to change pretty soon, because maybe it's a standard percentage. Maybe if you have 100 people that know, 10 people will do something. So if you have 1,000 people that know, you know, maybe it just works like that. I don't really know, but it's definitely a small percentage at the moment, but we're obviously making a difference because you see how hard they're trying to clamp down on it.
True. Yeah, that is very true. So things like that, the whole. Have you seen any of the stuff on the birth certificate drama that's going on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So what absolutely, it just absolutely blows me away that's not on national news.
I know. I know. And like I said, I mean, people's teacher is the television. So if the television said you're an idiot because you want to know if your president is even, you know, is it legitimate? Does he even qualify? Well, people just need to start thinking for themselves, beyond themselves, because what we do now determines our future. So if we're going to let them rig our elections now, what do these people expect to happen in the future? I mean, you can't, it's the pattern. The pattern has to change, and there's no time like the present. If you ask me.
Yes, exactly.
I agree, and I can't remember his name, but he was, well, I think he was murdered myself. I think it's a little too coincidental that he mentioned he was going to release tapes.
Right.
And then dies that very same day.
Yeah.
And of course, anybody can go look at how many people are suicided. I mean, it's a big, long list. If you really look at it, the information is there. So they're really trying to clamp down. But I mean, that's the thing. You can't. When the floodgate, you can put your finger in the dam when there's one hole. But when there's thousands and then it breaks and it all comes out, it's impossible. And I would very much like to see that this year, and I think we will. It's overdue.
Yeah.
Do you think that also includes the disclosure as well, or?
Well, disclosure is something that, you see, when you really look at all of the things that they have to hide from us to fill the need, they all have this God complex. disclosure will never come from them, ever, because if humanity ever globally, collectively realized that there was a community that extended beyond this planet, these people can't pull it off. I mean, you know what I'm saying? The game is up. It will displace their power center. So they're not ever going, they will do everything in their power to squash anything that will displace their power center. So at some point, these people have to be dealt with. They just do. Can we get them to see that what they're doing will eventually cause another self-destruction episode? I would like to think so. If we can't get those at the very top to recognize that, can we get the people that carry out their orders to recognize that? Because, I wrote about this in the first book. People talk about Hitler. They blame Hitler for killing millions of people. Well, he sure didn't do it by himself. It takes, that's the thing. There's a big, long chain of people from the 1% all the way down to the 99% that have to make it happen. And if people would stop doing it, it doesn't happen.
Yeah,
that's the easy solution. Right?
Yeah. I was going to say, because when you first got on the show, to change up a little bit, it sounds like you've been learning a lot of lessons and experiencing a lot of things. And what are some of the things that you can share with us that you've been learning, especially with doing these new videos?
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's start looking at it this way. We just talked about how we have people, the television is their teacher, and they'll just repeat what comes out of it. But even in our subculture, we ourselves do a lot of that. We will just repeat words and terms and phrases that sound good without really understanding what they are. And a good example of that is frequency, for example, right? So all that means is how frequently something happens or occurs. But what's the something, right? Do we know? And then like density, we say, well, we're moving into the third or fourth or fifth density. Well, what does density mean? It's mass per unit of volume. It's how much mass is in a particular space. Well, then what does mass mean, right? Well, mass is a body of coherent matter that the definition usually says has no particular shape. But then what is matter? Matter is a physical object or substance that can be perceived by the senses. Well, even those definitions don't really make sense. I think, from what I've been learning this last year, I would really like to see applied physics begin to lean more to applied harmonics. Because when you can look at it that way, all of those definitions take on a great deal more depth, especially in that order. Because if we look at frequency, well, is it how frequently we think about something? And let's say our thoughts begin to disturb the ether a little bit, and then and then we have mass start forming, right? Because the difference between mass and matter, based on the standard definitions, is if you throw a ball of putty on the floor, it lands in a mass. But if you shape it, well, that's matter. If you shape it into something identifiable, that's matter. But if we could apply that to harmonics, in terms of looking at it in terms of wave patterns, in that sense, or like code or like computer codes, I think we would get a lot farther. So even we're using terms and phrases that we don't really understand, but I think that's really kind of the thing, is that we want to get to a place where we can understand it, and we're really, really close. This individual and I did these two. It's 2 parts to a series. I don't know how many more we're going to do. It's really such an amazing, beautiful story, and it explains so many different things. And it's actually someone you've had on your show before. And it relieves so much of the fear. the propaganda fear, because there's a very fine line between fear and love, because I fear for my son's safety because I love him. I want him to be able to be healthy and carry on. So, but irrational fears are really what I think they play on the most, and withholding true knowledge from us makes that really easy, doesn't it? So when they say, "Oh, the sun's going to go supernova and kill us all," well, that becomes an irrational fear. Why is it irrational? Because it's from my view, it's not true. But the problem is they've worked really hard to make sure people don't know how to know if it's true. Do you know what I mean? So I've just been learning a lot about, we have a long way to go. We really do. My main concern right now, I think, is how do we make sure that we can get there? That's the really important thing. I don't have all the answers, but it's going to take a lot of people to want to get there, to know that we may not get there if we don't begin to work together. It's, if you try to start a dialogue with the same kind of people we were talking about, Tom, in terms of, let's go bomb the Arabs, because that's their mindset. If you try to tell them that Fukushima is still leaking radiation and that they have not done anything about it, they'll think you're crazy. But all you have to do is say, well, show me. Show me a single CNN or Fox News or internet story. Show me where they fixed it. They can't. There isn't one. And, I think, again, that's a really important thing. If you can get people to recognize that these kinds of things are happening and they're not being fixed, then you don't really have to get into, well, why aren't they being fixed? Because I would think it becomes self-evident at some point, They can come to that determination on their own. And then the other thing, too, is that because there are so many things that we really still do not understand, we know that there are a lot of really wonderful people working with what we could call applied harmonic technology and healing, not just healing people, but healing the earth, the planet. But even in that science, because you're dealing with creation, we have to be careful, because even we in the subculture don't really understand all of it, So there's just so many different things going on. And it's really hard to get people to communicate about it. You've seen all of these videos, I'm sure, flooding YouTube about how marijuana cures cancer. I'll tell you, when my grandmother died of cancer in her 50s, so this was a while ago, I would say in the late 70s maybe, and her doctors told my mother, go get her marijuana, but they didn't tell her why. So my mother just assumed it was for the nausea from the radiation. Well, we just have to make sure that that we're not, even in our genre, not believing that we have it all, that this is it. It's like we talk about frequency a lot, but it's harmonics. It's not just one frequency. It doesn't really work like that. So even we can get stuck sometimes in a certain frame of mind and think, well, that's it. That's all we have to learn. And the other really neat thing about this video series I did is, not only do I believe that this person has the true history of humanity that goes back very, very far, but because once you hear what it is, you recognize what we're missing, what we're giving up in exchange for what we're allowing these people to do to our future and our planet. And that really, I think, is what I guess kind of has a bee in my bonnet right now, is why would we give up going to other planets, star travel? There's just, it's just so amazing what we could do. And I would love to give examples, but I don't want to ruin it. It's just absolutely amazing what we have yet to do, but this is where we're stuck. We're trading that for this. We're trading that for laws that just got passed saying that you can't feed the homeless. That's a crime. I mean, that is absurd.
Really? I
Yeah.
didn't hear about that one.
Mhm. It's absurd.
Tom, you didn't tell me that one.
You can't do what, Crystal?
Feed the homeless.
Really?
Crime. Mhm.
Huh.
Is it the same as like
Don't feed the
feeding
bears?
Yeah.
Yes, and
Wow.
the other thing too, and you guys know this, and I mean I've talked about it in other shows, and I'm sure you've had guests on that have talked about it too. But we could end disease, and why is that important? Because we were meant to live much longer than we do, and we don't get to really finish. We don't get to conclude. It's like if you're reading a book and it's just getting to the really good part, and you lose it. And you can't ever get it back. And so we're not able to build. You know what I mean? I guess another way to look at it too is, you guys are familiar with genetic memory, and I'm sure
Right.
How they did those experiments with mice and mazes. And if people aren't familiar with that, what they discovered is the adult mouse may have a very difficult time getting through the maze, but its children are born automatically knowing the way. So living shorter lives also, I would think, would affect the next generation in terms of genetic imprinting, wouldn't it? Because what if that mouse never lived long enough to get through the maze? Then the offspring aren't born knowing how. So you see that even that in itself is this big, long ripple. And the other interesting thing about just that one thing is that tells us that we're supposed to improve every generation. It's built into us. So all of this rewriting of history and withholding knowledge and creating different caste systems so that people are fighting all the time in the war, and the toxins and all of these things is actually intentionally preventing us from evolving. It's like swimming up a waterfall in the wind. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Because we are designed automatically to evolve. So I can't even imagine how much work these people have had to do to make sure that we're going backwards, because it's actually the opposite of our natural function.
Yeah, the big question is, how do we break that cycle?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Maybe
this year.
Yeah, I think recognizing that it's a cycle that has to be broken is really, really important. And, the internet is such an awesome, awesome tool, because you get to see the view of other people without your television editing it for you.
Right.
There was this video that just came out with people in Israel saying, we don't want to bomb Iran. That's the thing. The people on this planet, the 99%, if we want to use that term, don't want war. So why do we let the 1% do it? I mean, why do we do it? It really doesn't make any sense. I know it's hard because people are having to lose a great deal before they get it. But I think that this year provides a very important window of opportunity to show people where this path continues before they have to live it. Because you don't have to learn the lessons the hard way. You don't have to.
Most of the occupies are still going on too.
Good.
I haven't been following that very closely. I know that they have tried harder and harder to shut them down, and I thought I heard something about Obama passing a law, the anti-Occupy law, that had something to do with these protests. So now it's a felony.
Oh, there was one passed about Washington D.C. about protesting at Washington D.C. at the White House or someplace there on federal ground. That came out like 2 or 3 weeks ago, something like that. I don't know the exact details on it, but
I wish I knew the particulars of it too, because that's one of those things that I don't think people recognize. If you have the right to assembly, you have that right. They don't have any right to take it away from you. And this is a free speech zone, and this is not a free speech zone. I mean, that's ridiculous. And if you end up exercising your free speech in a non-free speech zone, and that's a felony, I don't think people recognize what that means. If you get arrested, you no longer have the right to vote after that if you're a convicted felon. Isn't that convenient?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, all of us at some level are participating in where this goes. And, you know, you guys with your show have a larger sphere of influence than, say, a stay-at-home mother, but we all have a sphere of influence that I think we have to use to uplift our race, the culture of our race, to the next level in whatever capacity we can. And I know that there are people that listen to these shows that have a much, much bigger sphere of influence. And so,
hold on, Crystal. I just want to clarify that what Crystal means by race, she means the human race. I just don't want anybody to misunderstand you.
Oh, yes. Yes, oh, absolutely. Well, I call it Team Earth usually in the books, but yeah.
Team Earth, yeah, I like that.
Humanity, yeah, we I mean, that, what if we're not here for that, what else are we here for? You know? That's I think what the entire plan was.
It's funny how many times I asked that question of, especially like older people. I was asking my mom that question, and I'll give the background to the story really quickly. I was walking towards the train, and this man is walking with he has like a big duffel bag, and his duffel bag hits the woman on the leg, and she, you know, her legs go up in the air, and she hits face first. So me and this young guy run over and pick her up, and, you know, she lost a tooth, and the guy who hit her never bothered to turn around. Like, he turned around, looked at her, and just kept walking. And then I was telling my mom the story, and she was like, oh, don't get involved. And I was like, I can't. I said, the day I stop doing that is the day I stop being human. And I said to her, why are we here? Are we here just to, you know, was this all created, whatever you believe how life was created, but was it all created for us to make money and pay taxes and then die? And she just didn't have an answer after that.
Yeah, I think people don't understand that just being here makes you involved. You know, just being here, we're part of this. We're part of the human race, and being part of the human race means that you are involved in everything that's going on here in this planet in some form or fashion. You know, whether you're actively doing something to straighten things out, actively doing something to make them worse, or actively doing absolutely nothing, you're still a part of it. I mean, you can't avoid that. We're all part of it. We're all part of the problem, and we're all part of the cure.
Exactly. You
can't avoid it.
Yeah,
that's true. But I'll tell you what, there are some really neat things that I just would really love to see humanity get into. And there's a weird thing that I had happen a few years ago that I didn't write about, and I've never talked about it on a show. And I don't know, are we getting close to the first hour? Do you want me to save it?
Well, we've got about 7 minutes left.
Yeah, about 7 minutes.
Okay. Well, I was taking a nap one day, and this was a few years ago, in the daytime, and I was on my side facing the wall, and the wall was about 4 feet away from me, and I woke suddenly, and I looked at the wall, and I saw a design on my wall. And I was looking at this, and I'm thinking to myself, what is this? And I could see through it to the, you know, through it to the wall behind it, and it was a series of dots in this pattern. You know, if you took your arms and you put your fingers together and kind of made a circle, that's about how large it was. And I remember thinking, if I blink, it's going to be gone. And so I looked at it for a long time, and then I blinked, and it was still there until I blinked the third time, and it was gone. And I've always wondered what that was. And then I was talking to somebody who explained to me, they said, oh, that sounds like a crop circle. And you know what? That is actually what it looked like in that sense. And some ideas were given to me about what that might be. I know it's really, really strange, but are there transmissions that come in from other places? And how do we process those? Was I receiving it, and when I opened my eyes in the middle of it, I projected an image of what it would have been? Or did the image come and then the information came? Or do you know what I mean? There are really fascinating things happening all over the place, but we're so stuck into survival mode, we can't really explore them properly. And, I mean, we're missing out on a lot of really neat stuff.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. That whole survival mode thing is just that's one of the big things that has to go by the wayside to be able to allow us to explore who and what we are, for sure.
And you know, in the first book I talked about how I had went back to the seer and asked her about my spirit guides. Did they have names? And she said, usually they won't tell you their names. And I said, why? And she said, because they're usually you. And, of course, that had a great deal to do with why I wrote the second book the way I did. Are there future versions of ourselves coming back? Is that where the transmissions come from? Do we know? You know, there's a lot of really neat stuff that we could consider rather than how do we get rid of these guys? You know?
Yeah. So is there a picture of the pattern somewhere that we can probably post so people can...
You know, I saw it last year. Somebody had posted an image on Facebook, and it was almost exactly what I saw, but I didn't save the picture. But I know I have about a week until this airs, so I'll see if I can find it, because it was really, really neat. And I did see one time something very, very similar. And then, you know what was weird? About 2 weeks later, I got bit by a recluse on my forearm. And the way
by what?
A recluse spider, a poisonous spider that we have out here in the desert. And the way my skin swelled, the pattern of my pores was in that exact same pattern. It was so strange.
Someone really wants you to get it, Crystal.
It was neat. I tell you, it was really neat.
Oh, well. So
I was going to say, is it possible we can ask you to draw it, Crystal? Because I know you can draw.
Yeah, I don't know if I remember it well enough in terms of the detail, because it was so long ago. It was probably 5-6 years ago now. It's been a while. It was just really neat. I'll talk more about it, but I want to make sure. Are we recording?
Yeah, we're recording.
Okay. Because you know, when you can look at just a simple thing like that, can we get to a place where we may come back and visit ourselves? That one thing opens up your mind to so many other possibilities, because I've also had situations where in fact, it woke me up once where I know that there was somebody in the room with me, but I couldn't see them, but I could feel them. I knew they were there. Well, how many times do we think to ourselves, because we get locked into the New Age box too. I mean, there's box after box after box. Well, that's my spirit guide. Well, or maybe somebody is remote viewing me, but what if it's really you? You know?
Yeah.
What if it's really you coming back to you to help yourself? Maybe that's what angels are. I mean, it's, you know, there's just, I tell you, we have not even scratched the surface of how wonderful and wondrous being alive really is. The possibilities that we have are just absolutely mind-blowing. We just have to get there, and we're really, really close. You know, I know a lot of us can taste it, can't we? You know, a lot of us already have our foot in that world, I think. We're trying to drag everybody. Come see, because it's pretty wonderful. We have a lot to look forward to in that sense.
Yep, I have to agree. I definitely have to agree. Okay, well, we are nearing the top of the hour, so we might as well wrap up here. Crystal, would you like to leave our BBS listeners with any parting words?
Well, first of all, I'm very proud of both of you for your show. You have some wonderful guests. I'm proud of you, Ramon, for your book. I can't wait to read it. And I think that, if we could stay focused on what kind of future we want to have, it automatically focuses on how we get there. I think that's important because the one automatically lines up the other, and everybody needs to do their part. Doesn't matter if you're rich or if you're poor or if you're famous, or it just doesn't matter because we're all here together. We've got to do it together.
Hear, hear. Okay, well, I want to thank all the BBS listeners. We will continue this conversation over in the members section. And hey,
if you're not a member, you can join us.
Absolutely. Support what we're doing here. We definitely appreciate everybody who has so far. And hang around for Dr. Brooks Agnew coming up next. And, oh, God, condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance. And that is so poignant in our day and age right now.
And the love you deny is the pain you carry.
Another poignant statement. All right, love you guys, and we'll see you in the members section.
Buenas noches.
Condition of the world today, I can't help but get down on my knees and pray that we will stay. I stand for love. 'Cause if you walk around the alleyway, you see the homeless people with no place to stay, so we must say, I stand for love. All the problems that divide the world are black and white. To end the racism, we've got to fight. So